Hi, so I am going to continue explaining about the Passover meal and the connections that it has to our Mass. So in the last video, we made it up to the final plague where Moses had said, Pharaoh, if you do not free the slaves, your firstborn son will die. Now, in order to keep this plague from hitting the Israelites, the Passover meal is instituted. There's essentially a list of rules that the Israelites have to follow in order to get the angel of death to pass over, hence the name, pass over their house. So here are some of the rules that are listed in the book of Exodus. Every Israelite is to take an unblemished lamb. They are to kill the lamb, drain the blood out of it, take a hyssop branch, it's very specific, a hyssop branch, mark your doorpost with the blood. Then everyone in the house is to consume the lamb and everybody has to participate, and you are not to break the bones of the lamb. Now, during the Passover meal, there are 4 cups of wine that are drank. The first cup is the cup of sanctification. So you would drink the cup of wine, then the cup of deliverance, then the cup of redemption. Then they sing the great Hallel, which is a psalm they sing. So they sing the great Hallel. And then the cup of the covenant bond is then drank. Now, this is extremely important because Jesus celebrated the Passover meal the night before he died. He celebrated the Last Supper. Now, when you go into the Gospels, 3 out of 4 Gospels will tell you, while participating in the Passover meal, Jesus drank a cup of wine, they sang a song, and then they left. Every single Jew would have little alarm bells going off in their head saying, Jesus left without finishing the Passover meal. What is happening here? So out of 3 of the 4 Gospels, it says drank the 3 cups, sang a song, and left. Then you'll notice that, and we say this every Easter, Jesus goes into the garden to pray following the Passover meal because he knows his crucifixion is coming. He goes in the garden to pray and he specifically says, God, if you will it, take this cup from me. Cup is normally looked at, we look at it as, oh, he's asking, please take away the burden that I'm going to bear, but he's talking about a literal cup too. He is about to seal the new covenant using the Passover meal. Now, the Gospel of John is the last gospel that is written, and it is often, as I like to refer to it, the clarifier gospel, because the reason John wrote his gospel is after Christ's death and resurrection, several heresies had broken out. So John wrote his gospel specifically to say, no, this is exactly what is happening. So when you read the book of John, we very commonly look at John 6, where it's talking about how Christ is saying, you will eat my flesh and drink my blood. And it tells us in scripture, people left. They were so offended by the words that Christ was saying that you're going to eat me? No. And people left. They weren't going to listen to him anymore. At the end of the gospel, it very specifically talks about how Christ left the Passover meal immediately after singing the song, the great Hallel, without ever actually drinking the cup of the covenant. When he is on the cross, right before his death, he receives a drink of wine. What is the drink of wine on? John tells us on a hyssop branch. The reason he is saying a hyssop branch is because it is calling us back to that time in the book of Exodus when a hyssop branch was used to mark the doorpost so that the angel of darkness would pass over. John is telling us something very specific. Jesus is finishing the Passover meal, sealing the new cup of the covenant on the cross with his death. And at that moment, after Christ drinks the wine on the hyssop branch, he says, it is finished. It is finished does not make sense if you don't understand what you're looking at, because it is finished makes you think well, clearly he's not done because he rises from the dead. What he's saying is the new covenant is sealed with the sacrifice of my life. So I will continue on with David next week. Have a great week.